historical component of experience is a huge aspect.
Yeah. Okay. But I think we can also agree that nobody's going to try to say that Nietzsche was a great poet or a great, fiction or how you say a conjurer of a legend. It just wasn't. It wasn't what he was. I mean, I don't. I would not be. I would not be pressed to try to defend that. Whereas somebody like Dostoevsky or Tolstoy, those really were writers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. We have different tastes a little bit, and I'm not sure what's happened to my tastes because they've been through so many different levels of historical alteration that I'm not really even sure where I'm at anymore. But I mean, to my mind, I like books like The Black Insider, and I can find a thrill out of those. But after a while, once you get the message and you can move beyond that level, it's not quite as thrilling as it used to be. So it's sort of problematic.
Yeah, I hear you. Hey, we'll talk more about that later. But at least what I'm. Do you feel like we have given? Do you feel like you've had a fair opportunity to talk about how shamanism came into your life, how it appeared, what it roughly means, at least in terms of your personal history? And we haven't gotten into the theory of it, but at least in terms of how you arrived at it, do you think there's anything more important that needs to be said?
Okay, let me add just the parts that might be slightly missing, just the kind of summary aspects. Um, just very quickly, yeah.
Right.
So, so basically, for me, the shamanistic approach was the pathway that I found and in some senses constructed for myself in order to heal myself and bring myself out of a mentality where I was pretty much maladapted to the society I was in because I was. Um, Actually, I was terrified. I was kind of petrified. Literally, I was stuck in one position, like, the word petrified, you turn into a rock.
Yeah, I like that word spectrum. Yeah.
I think psychologically because of the war and my father's attitude toward it and his authoritarianism and the way it had ended, I was very petrified into a very a very limited kind of psychological position where it was just inadequate. I was kind of like this 15-year-old girl adjusted to the feminine aspects of Rhodesian society and not really rounded in the whole sense of knowing anything or experiencing anything, and I was stuck in that position, and I was getting angrier and angrier because of the circumstances I was in, which were, in many respects quite hostile and very difficult to adapt to a new situation. And so, hey?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I agree.
so shamanism was the way I found to heal myself and to access those different compartments of my mind that had been shut off. Some of those compartments represented what the white male had done, like fighting for myself or defending myself and going to war on my own behalf. Some represented what the black members of society had done, which is to basically be a lot more closer to practical reality and to doing stuff and being a practical person, not being afraid to get my hands dirty and to be close to other people's emotion because emotion was very divorced from me.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So shamanism was my method that I found.
In, you mean demonstrative emotion,
I mean,
right?
the experience of a wide range of emotions wasn't something I had. We experienced very sublimated emotions or very reverential emotions or awe, but we didn't experience a wide range of them, especially crude or direct or hostile or angry or.
Yeah, I understand your point. Of course, I mean, I get that. Yeah. That actually makes a lot of sense. I mean,
Yeah, you need to be able to do that to have a day-to-day life. You need to say, well, look at the morning, I'm pleased with it or I'm upset with it or it's too rainy, damn it.
I hear that, but then of course now I have a belief as a person interested in shamanism myself. You know, I believe that it's one thing to experience emotions, but I think it also is important for a person to have a robustness to be able to handle their emotions.
That is huge. That is really huge.
And so I don't think it's enough just to experience them.
No, that's true.
We have to develop some capacity to deal with them.
That is true. That's true. That I actually had to allow whatever emotion I had accumulated, and part of which was red hot or white hot rage, to filter into me somehow, and I compartmentalized myself temporarily to protect myself from myself in many respects, because I didn't want to expose myself to my own rage, and I tried to find a way to handle that using different strategies, and that was when I entered the military. That was a particular strategy.
Well, and to be honest with you, I don't find that to be a very strange experimentation.
No. Good.
Why would I think it's I think, to be honest with you, I think it would be very shamanic for people to have some military experience.
I agree. I think it's important. It is an aspect of being that's very, very important.
Yeah, I absolutely.
That aspect of fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a person is not a complete person if they don't have some competency in fighting.
I agree. I do agree fully with that. That was my first shamanic awakening, when I developed that initial competency.
Well, good for you. I'll be honest with you. Fighting is one of my weak areas, and I have to tell you. But we're not pretending to be like the ultimate black belts of shamanism here. But obviously you have some competencies that I don't have. That's obvious. But I at least recognize that competency in fighting is part of, not only, in my opinion, being shamanistic, but being human.
Being human, yeah. I agree. I think it is. Yeah, I agree. I do. Very, very important, and for me especially, it's actually in my character on some levels, and very important for me to access that aspect of my being.
And that just makes you a human being, because look, a human being that doesn't have the ability to support and defend him or herself, I believe is kind of a not fully mature or fully formed creature. Because all the creatures of nature can defend themselves, at least, or can at least try.
Yeah. To be honest, there are still some modern skills of self-defense, though, the kind of subtle reckonings that I haven't at all mastered, or I'm still maybe getting there on, or may never master. But I have learned that the sickness that I had before, when I had all that susceptibility to viruses, and I was really, I had chronic fatigue syndrome, that was because I had a lot of aggression I was directing inwardly.
Yeah. In other words, your completeness as a human was not in a good stasis, or whatever you want to call it.
I think I have more aggression in me than the average person does, and the aggression was going in the wrong direction. It was going against me.
Yeah.
I do think I have a lot of aggression in me by nature.
Maybe it wasn't so much that you were being aggressive against yourself, but maybe your energetic flow, and I hate to use metaphors like that, because that's such a vague metaphor. But let's say the flow, your natural flow of energy was not, let's say, not healthy.
I think I was actually using my aggression against myself in the way of the Rhodesian female was not aggressive, but you direct that inwardly. It goes nowhere except inwardly.
Okay. That's probably fair to say. I think I have some idea what you mean by that. Obviously, we'll have more time. Maybe at some point we could have like a video where you talk about the female experience in Rhodesia as at least as at least best you can. And there might be some good material that would come out of that. We could really focus on that and maybe try to flesh out a little bit what you mean when you say just goes inward. Because remember, that's a very metaphorical usage. And it might be important to try to precisify what that really is, as opposed to just saying inward, because that energy inward, that to me is just that's too vague for my taste.
Yeah, I realize that, but I mean it quite literally in that my immune system had a lot of overheating.
I can believe. I mean, why wouldn't I believe it? Look, it's not uncommon. To me, it's a very basic concept that any kind of we use the term stress.
Mm.
When I use the term stress, I mean a kind of unresolved frustration.
Mm.
I like to use more specific terms. To me, stress is one of those ambiguous words. It's just a word. I think what stress really is this unresolved frustration, where it becomes very strong, very intense.
Mm.
And I think unresolved frustration can be very destructive.
Yeah, I actually agree with your terminology, stress, although that is also a little bit vague. It evokes sort of certain things in certain people's minds. That is maybe apt or maybe not so much.
Too metaphorical of a word. I mean, I can tell you right now, it's a physics term.
Yeah, okay.
Metaphors, But
well, I was meaning in the same manner as in a kind of physics sense when I used my own metaphor about inward going rather than outward going. It's sort of like Freudian hydraulics in a way. But I do have a lot of capacity for aggression, and I do find that. For instance, if I do martial arts, I feel very healthy. It's something I ought to be doing. If I adopt a very modern lifestyle where people don't do anything that's aggressive, I start to get that frustration again, that stress. It builds up. So,
yeah. I'm going to have to tell you, I know people like you. I know people. My father is like you.
Yeah.
My father is not physical. He doesn't have a way of being physical. He will get sick. He has to be physical.
Yeah, well, that's how I am. So I do need to be aware of my aggression, and I need to channel it appropriately. Otherwise, I get sick.
Yeah. Well, and I think if you were to talk to any good athlete, a real athlete, a true athlete, when they don't practice their sport, things don't go so well. They have to be exercising. Some people are real athletes. Some people are physical.
Yeah. Well, you got to find who you really are, and then you've got to cater to that. Or
think
things don't go so well.
I totally believe that, and I can't sit here and say that I'm much of an athlete. I think I'm probably constitutionally more of a true artist, but I have to be expressing myself in some kind of art, or I get sick too.
Well, there we go. So we've established something.
Something similar, because I don't have to be terribly physical, but I do have to be doing something.
Yeah.
So art is kind of more of a crafty way of being physical, but it's still an active process, and it takes a lot of energy to be artistic.
Yes, I have done that before, and I know the difficulty there, and the energy, and the excitement, and the other dimensions of.
I can also see how a real artist might be a little envious of the true athletes, because athletes, they do have a certain physical superiority, which they might feel slightly proud of, because real athletes, they have physical strength, and you can't really argue with that. It's just kind of something to be proud of.
Yeah. So there's a lot to admire in somebody like Muhammad Ali or somebody like that. It's just amazing.
Or any strong person. Any athlete. Any athlete.
True. Yeah.
When I was in college and I would see those basketball players, the way they would strut around the campus, they would walk a little slower than the rest. They seemed a little more relaxed because they're on top of the world.
You've got to find who you are. That's what the message is, and you've got to be who you are. If you're an athlete, be the athlete and feel on top of the world. Or if you're an artist.
Yeah, boy. I don't think it's very artistic to feel like you're on top of the world, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. I don't think. I think the artist who feels like he's on top of the world, I don't know. Although you could argue that Salvador Dali felt like he was on top of the world. He was kind of like the Muhammad Ali of art. He was very, very, very sure of himself. You know.
Yeah. Well.
Okay. But from what I understand, people who knew Salvador Dali really well, he did have a very insecure side to him.
Yeah, I guess with the artist, you need to be able to do it. Maybe it's a more tortured existence in many respects. It's not always on top of the world in that simple manner.
I know. Well, then again, honestly, for the athlete, it probably isn't either, because when you're training, I believe true training, if it's real training, is going to be pretty arduous.
Oh yeah. If you do real training, yeah, you get torn apart some. It's mental stress, which is all good for you because you don't suffer that later, I guess.
Yeah. Good points. Anyway, so what an interesting. Really, honestly, I mean, I have a tone of voice where when I'm speaking, I sound like I'm being glib and I sound like I'm being sarcastic of everything I say. But really, honestly, I want to tell you, I think you have a pretty interesting story, and I think the way you've told it has been, for me, very. I'm going to say the word very touching. It's very,
thank you.
a good way. I really appreciate it. You're. I've always had respect for you. People will realize, it won't take long to realize that you and I have some discrepancies in our temperament and the way we see things, and sometimes we're prone to squabbling when we start disagreeing about things. It can't happen. It can happen.
You can't what?
I say it does happen sometimes.
Yeah, well, just let it happen, okay.
No, it does. It does. Get on each other's nerves. Sometimes I'll make a statement, kind of a broad statement, and we sort of wrestle, you know.
Yeah, we do. Okay.
But at the same time, there's a lot of respect. You know, I have a lot of respect for where you've been and who you are. You know what I mean? Because the reason is because I don't know a lot of people who have what I would call the true philosophical disposition. And I am absolutely sure that you've had it even before you started your journey. You see, even before you started any of your journey, you've always had a taste for when people would disavow the centrism in some way or another, but they're really still being in a centric mode. And you can sort of read that because you're born with palate, or you're born with the taste buds that allow you to smell a certain type of hypocrisy that most people would never notice.
Yeah, that's the core of my being. You got it.
Yep. So obviously I respect that. I've always respected that, not just in you, but in anybody who has that. Problem is there's not a lot of people like that. You know, I mean, I just have to tell you because I've seen a lot of people, and most are not. Some are, you know, I've met a few people who have the philosophical disposition without the education.
Sure.
And those are very interesting people. They really are.
And
it's fun to talk to. You know.
Yeah, and likewise, I've really enjoyed talking to you. And next time we'll do the your side of things version.
And not only that, but then after that, we'll continue with this introduction where we'll start to introduce the theory, which I think will be a lot of fun because I think both of us really enjoy the theory because we really delight in being careful with our words and the magic of getting things, you know, coming up with a very insightful way of framing things. It's exciting because we know that whatever frames we come up with, they're all tentative. They're kind of like tools that we use, but we work with them like musicians, and sometimes we come up with some pretty exciting ways to frame stuff.
We do, and we have made progress, and we will continue to make it. So let's. I suppose we'll wrap it up for now, and I'll see if any of these videos look like anything.
Yeah, man. I can't wait to see what the final product looks like.
Whoa! Don't hold your breath. I mean, the quality is probably not going to be good.
we're in the business of medium to low quality material.
I think so. I'm afraid so.
We're gonna produce literally the fast food of shamanism.
Unfortunately, at this time. We'll do what we can. Okay.
Deal with it. Too bad. Okay.
Okay,
Well,
thank
hey,
you.
have a good rest, and I will talk later.
Yeah, okay, take care. Bye. Have a good day.
You too.